Hey team, I want to go over a quick missions update after week one. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about the missions background, the missions actually happening, and then ask you if you have any questions. So let's start with missions as a whole. Thanks to Gerli for providing this graphic, and also Fernando for going and learning how a lot of other products and engineering teams are working right now. She basically recapped what it is that she's been seeing or that they've been seeing, basically starting from a problem, which we didn't used to do in the past, and then executing on that problem, which is what we're doing now in our missions, as well as we've done the preparation part, or we're still in some cases doing it, and then we're learning, and we're by doing that, by focusing on the data, we're always learning and iterating, and we're going to see a lot more iteration in this process than we did in the past. So I saw this from a company called Obo, and this is how they conceptualized that product should be built. We did this strategy part during the management strategy session, and we have been communicating things, and now I want to share the product plan with everybody. That will happen later this week because this presentation was getting too long. So what I want to convey is what is it that we're working towards? What's the timeline for executing that plan, and what will we do in what order. So let's talk about the actual missions. First, top talent invitations. In the future, we want this user experience, that the information that we're collecting from people, to make up what a talent profile it is, or what a talent profile is. And when a profile is shared with an employer, in other words, when we collect as much information as we need about our talent, we want this information to help and to be enough information for recruiters to make decisions about talent, to be able to say, yes, I want to interview this person, or no. So some questions that we have is, how might we make it so employers can't help but get excited when they're presented with new candidates? And how might we make it so it's easier to evaluate talent on Jobbatical than it is on LinkedIn or other platforms? Right now, you see people on Jobbatical, the first thing that they do in the employer dashboard is click on the person's LinkedIn profile and evaluate them that way. So this is kind of a look into the future. The profile mission is scheduled for May, but what we're doing now is going to start informing this process. So one of the first things we did when we started this process was look at what is the talent that we need to know about most. And those numbers, I realized when I copy and paste, got a little weird, but you can see data of what's been most in demand from Jobbatical from day one, and you can see that engineers are by far the most in demand, with 68% of all jobs on the Jobbatical platform, and web developers are the most prominent engineers. So this is kind of, when we look at who do we want to vet, this is always a focus list that we can come back to. And now we're looking at the actual user flow. You can click on this graphic in the presentation to see it bigger if you can't read this. So basically what we're looking at is user acquisition, ads, sourcing, that kind of thing. And then the landing page itself, which is what we're building in Mission 1. And right now we're having them enter email address and LinkedIn profile, and then accepting terms. And then what we're going to do is create a user, and they are going to be informed when we actually finish the onboarding flow. But for now, they're kind of sitting in this database while we're optimizing the landing page mission, which you'll hear about more. And then we're building the overall UX and onboarding flow, which is happening in this mission. And then we're sending people to a talent land or a thank you page, which sets expectations for next, which is also Mission 1. But I wanted to show this experience in one picture. And then you can accept or reject people. And then we have to be able to tell them if they're being in, what does that mean, or follow up with them to tell them to give us more information. So they're going to get an email, and they're going to complete their account sign up, and then that's going to be saved in the database, and there we go. So here's a kind of a little bit of a different flow. So when they complete their sign up, we're going to say, because we already have their information with the landing page, hi Anga, import your data from your stuff. We're going to set a password and then tell us about your skills and your desired location and things like that. And we have some A/B tests that we're talking about setting up, and we're going to finalize this based on where we put these little modules, these little information collectors, what's going to happen. And so you can look into this further if you want. And so this week, Fernando and Juan are implementing the front-end architecture. They're using Auth0 to help us move quickly. Alan is working on the back end. We're building a flow and finalizing a model with Anga, or Anga is going to do the bulk of that. We're looking at wireframes, Anga, and then finalizing the models, actually, everyone. And then running the user data that we're going to collect by recruiters to see, if we give you all of this information, is enough to see if a person can be hired or at least interviewed. So if you want to follow along with the mission, go ahead and join us on Slack. We'd love to have lurkers or whatever. So now for the Top Talent landing page mission. We have written copy, we're doing interviews, and we're understanding what it is that talent wants. Basically, we're finding that developers want something different from business people. So we're realizing maybe we need to create in our marketing different landing pages in addition to a more generalized homepage. But Anga right now is creating wireframes. Param is doing a lot of work in kind of what's this architecture going to look like. We have landing page copy written, which we're integrating into these designs. And when we're interviewing, kind of doing our final interviews, we're going to run this landing page by people and see, does this make sense? What questions do you have? What would you wish that you saw that was different from this? So this week we're polishing and integrating the landing page, we're finishing our interviews, and we're creating V1 of the landing page and testing it with our target audience. So then next week we are going to actually formally launch this. We're going to track the success and start A/B tests, and then in the couple weeks when we can, we will integrate this with the Top Talent invitation flow, which you just saw previously. So if you want more, again, follow us on Slack. Last mission, and then I'll let you go, the sourcing mission. So let's look a little bit at the history. I recently did some interviews with some technical recruiters, and they said that the sourcing that they spend per hire is 6 hours and 8 hours. And when they present when they present candidates to their hiring manager, they want to make sure that if they believe if they present 4 or 3 resumes to the hiring manager and a hire isn't made, then they feel like they failed. So right now we have some metrics for our sourcing, and we're not quite there yet. The hours per hire for internal sourcing is 1,440 and counting, because we still don't have any hires, so that's very different than 6 and 8. And then the cost per hire on LinkedIn sourcing, because we don't have time spent, is 8,333 euros and counting. Because again, we don't have hires there yet, and that might be a little bit out of date, but that's as of last week. I think Gerli put in that information. Sorry for the messy editing break in this video. I just thought I was late for the management meeting, but I wasn't, so good. Basically, take a look at the metrics, look at how our sourcing is happening historically, and then follow along with us if you feel like it on the sourcing metrics as we experiment. So other companies, this is a report from Texlio. Thanks to Maria for sharing it. Other companies say that they receive 2% of applications from sourcing and make 15% of their hires from sourcing. We've made 0 hires from sourcing since we started it. So that's really why we need to take on this mission, to make sure that we're starting to get more hires via sourcing, that it's part of our hiring mix. So right now, what we're doing is we're looking at how the competition does sourcing. We're gathering best practices, and thanks to Kayla and Gerlie, we're doing a ton of demos, I think 13 over the last 2 weeks, and we're taking advantage of a bunch of free trials that these companies are giving us to get a sense of how this is working and to run some initial experiments. Again, 1 in 100 total candidates get hired, 1 in 152 applicants get hired, and 1 in 72 sourced candidates get hired. This is a lever report that might be of interest. So how are other platforms doing it? What do people offer? Well, basically what happens is you enter your job description or skills needed for something, and you type it in, calibrate your talent that you want, and you get back a list of, this is one of the platforms, but these vary, a list of people with their skills. And then you click, 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 I want to talk to these people, and then you can email them. And ideally, you send out an email sequence. You can see in this that this person was emailed 2 out of 2 emails, and you can stalk them on social or whatever. So that's the platforms that we're looking at right now for sourcing. And I recommend for sure, if you want more information, you can take a look at the sourcing platform notes, as well as just Google some of these sourcing platforms. There's tons: HireTool, Lever, Amazing Hiring, Gem, and just get a feel for what they're doing, because it's helpful to actually what we're doing. So based on the close rate of sales, we know that we need to build a capacity to source for 2 roles per week, and that will mean that every role that comes out, we can source for it in the first week. And starting this week, we'll source for 1 role per week, and then we'll ramp up by the end of our 5-week mission period. Again, we're on day 1 of week 2. We're starting our first platform trial this week, and we're reaching out with a single email, and then that sourcing sheet that I referenced before is where we'll be tracking our performance statistics. So next week, what we need to do is actually enhance that first email sequence or that first email, and make sure that it's a sequence, because as you can see, there's a big difference between if you just send 1 email, this is your response, and then 2 emails, and on and on. So this is our schedule for who we're going to source starting this week. Malwarebytes is the Most in Trouble Work in Estonia campaign, and then also we have other product B deals that we really want to make sure get closed. And if you want to follow along with the sourcing mission, you do so on Slack. So any questions, any information that you need, definitely reach out and we will take it from there. All right, great. Thank you so much. Bye.